Have you ever found yourself inexplicably drawn to someone even when you try not to care? You might not understand why, but there's something about the way they speak, the way they pause, the way they choose their words that lingers in your mind long after they're gone. It's not magic and it's not coincidence. It's something deeper, something that reaches into the hidden corners of your mind, the parts that crave connection, but are terrified of it at the same time. If you've ever felt this pull, you are not alone. And what's even more fascinating is that the way someone communicates can make a person who normally keeps their distance, someone who guards their heart, become completely obsessed. Not in a controlling way, but in a way that shows the human brain is wired to notice, crave, and remember certain patterns of communication. Right now, you might be wondering why this happens. Why do certain people stop you in your tracks without even trying? The answer lies in the psychology of human attraction, in the subtle interplay between curiosity, desire, and emotional resonance. There are signals that go beyond words, beyond tone, signals that speak directly to the part of the mind that loves mystery, that thrives on connection without suffocation. People with avoidant tendencies, those who instinctively pull away from closeness, are especially sensitive to this. They may resist closeness, push people away, and act like they don't care, but deep down, their minds are alert. Every carefully chosen word, every deliberate pause, every hint of emotional depth, it all gets registered. Their brain is like a radar, scanning for signals that promise safety, meaning, and intrigue. This is why some people are impossible to ignore. They communicate in a format that feels effortless, yet profoundly impactful. There is a rhythm to it, a subtle power that creates curiosity and fascination. And here's the secret: you don't need to shout, chase, or overwhelm to be noticed. In fact, the people who are obsessed with this style of communication are the ones who respond to calm, steady, and deliberate energy. They are drawn to authenticity because it's rare. They are pulled in by mystery because it stimulates their mind. And they are captivated by depth because it touches the part of the heart they often hide, even from themselves. You may think this is something only certain gifted people can do, but the truth is far more encouraging. It's not about talent, it's about understanding the way the human mind responds to communication. It's about recognizing that words, timing, and emotional resonance are more powerful than charm, looks, or charisma alone. When you communicate in this format, you create a magnetic effect. People start to notice. They start to linger in your presence, even in thought. Avoidants, who often pride themselves on detachment, may find themselves thinking of you repeatedly, drawn to the way you express yourself without pressure, without neediness, and without trying to manipulate them. Imagine being able to speak in a way that draws people closer, not because you demand their attention, but because your presence, your energy, and your words naturally resonate with them. This is not manipulation. It is mastery over one of the most powerful forces in human interaction, connection. Connection that bypasses superficial attraction and goes straight to the emotional core. This is the kind of communication that avoidants can't resist because it speaks to their hidden desire for intimacy, curiosity, and understanding, all while giving them the space they instinctively crave. And here's why this is worth your attention. By the end of this video, you'll understand the exact principles that make someone irresistible in this way. You'll see why certain communication patterns create obsession in people who usually resist closeness. And most importantly, you'll learn how to use this knowledge not to manipulate, but to connect authentically, to inspire fascination, and to leave a lasting impression on anyone you meet. Stick with this video until the end because what you'll discover has the potential to change the way you relate to people forever, to transform the way you are noticed, and to give you confidence in your ability to influence without force. Right now, it's crucial to realize something. Your mind has been trained to notice extremes. Loud voices, flashy gestures, and constant attention grab your focus. But subtlety works differently. Subtlety lingers. It seeps into the subconscious. It creates anticipation and curiosity. And when combined with authenticity and calm confidence, it triggers a psychological response that even avoidants, who pride themselves on emotional distance, cannot ignore. They may try to rationalize their feelings, tell themselves they're overthinking, or even push you away, but the pull will remain. Their brain has noticed the signal, and it will keep circling back. So, ask yourself this: are you ready to understand this hidden force? Are you ready to see why certain people can captivate even who resist closeness? And are you ready to learn how to wield this knowledge to create deeper, more meaningful connections and to inspire fascination that feels effortless? Keep watching, because the answers you'll find here are not just interesting. They are powerful, transformative, and rooted in the psychology of the human mind. By the time you finish this video, you'll see communication not just as words, but as a tool of influence, attraction, and deep human connection. You might be asking yourself, what exactly makes someone so captivating that even the most distant person feels compelled to notice them? The truth lies not in flashy gestures, constant attention, or trying too hard to impress. It lies in subtlety, in the way communication can be structured to quietly draw someone in. People with avoidant tendencies are not immune to emotional signals. They are just cautious. Their hearts are guarded, their minds are alert, and their attention is selective. Yet, when they encounter a specific style of communication, one that balances clarity, depth, and restraint, their curiosity is ignited. It's like a spark in the dark that refuses to fade. This style doesn't scream for attention, it whispers with intention. Every word, every pause, and every tone is carefully aligned with a rhythm that feels natural, but also significant. It communicates value without needing to be explained. It demonstrates presence without demanding response. Avoidants are wired to scan for authenticity, to detect hidden agendas, and to sense when someone is operating from genuine self-assurance. When they feel it, they can't help but pay attention. Their mind begins to loop over every interaction, analyzing each detail, recalling each nuance, and quietly holding on to the memory of it. This is the subtle art that creates obsession, not through force, but through intrigue. It's important to understand the underlying psychology. Avoidance fear vulnerability. They equate closeness with potential loss or rejection. So, when someone communicates with a sense of calm authority and clear boundaries, it bypasses their defenses. The message becomes safe and the allure begins to form. The brain responds to this safety combined with intrigue by releasing dopamine, the chemical of attention and desire. Suddenly, what seems like casual interaction transforms into fascination. Every small interaction becomes meaningful. Every word, a signal worth decoding. But it's not just about safety. Depth plays an equally critical role. People who connect on a superficial level are easily forgotten. Avoidants notice depth even when they resist it. When someone speaks with purpose, reflecting understanding and insight, it triggers an internal recognition of value. Their mind registers it as rare, something worth holding on to. This is why certain individuals seem magnetic. They communicate on layers that ordinary conversation rarely touches. It isn't about sharing everything at once, but about sharing enough to make the other person pause, reflect, and return mentally to what was said. Consistency amplifies this effect. Occasional brilliance may impress, but consistent communication establishes a pattern that the mind finds irresistible. When someone consistently demonstrates clarity, calm, and subtle depth, the brain starts to anticipate their presence. Avoidants, who are naturally wary of emotional turbulence, are drawn to this stability. They begin to seek it subconsciously, noticing patterns in speech, timing, and intention. Their obsession is not about control or dependency, it's about appreciation for something that resonates on a level deeper than surface attraction. Another key element is the balance between availability and space. Avoidants are not drawn to people who crowd them. They are captivated by those who communicate thoughtfully and respectfully, who engage meaningfully, but do not overwhelm. This creates a natural tension, a push and pull that triggers curiosity. Their mind fills in the gaps, imagining more than what is stated, looping over every interaction. This is why restraint, when paired with intentional expression, becomes a powerful magnet. It is also important to recognize the emotional resonance this creates. Avoidants often hide vulnerability, yet they are not immune to connection. Communication that is both deliberate and emotionally intelligent speaks directly to their unspoken needs. It gives them permission to feel without forcing them to act or reveal more than they are ready to share. This kind of connection stimulates fascination because it operates on a level they seldom encounter, where their emotions are acknowledged, but their independence remains respected. This is where the subtle mastery of words comes into play. Every sentence should carry weight without heaviness, clarity without force, and emotion without desperation. Avoidants respond to precision, not embellishment. They notice when someone can convey meaning without filling every silence. Pauses become powerful. They allow the mind to linger, to interpret, to crave the next insight. The absence of excessive communication is not emptiness, it is an invitation. Their brain naturally begins to replay interactions, mentally returning to each nuance, each carefully chosen word, and each meaningful pause. When combined, these elements, clarity, depth, consistency, space, and emotional resonance, create a communication style that is irresistible. It is not about being mysterious for the sake of mystery. It is about embodying qualities that stimulate curiosity while providing psychological safety. Avoidants may resist connection consciously, yet they are unconsciously drawn to it. This explains why people who communicate in this format are not just noticed, they are remembered, pondered, and in many cases, obsessions form because the mind cannot let go of what feels both rare and meaningful. By now, it should be clear that this is not about charm or surface level attraction. It is about understanding human nature. It is about recognizing that the mind of someone who resists closeness responds to signals of authenticity, stability, and meaningful engagement. It is about communicating in a way that respects their boundaries while creating intrigue. And it is about understanding that true fascination arises from the combination of subtlety, depth, and psychological resonance. As you move forward in this video, remember that mastering this form of communication is not manipulation, it is empowerment. It is learning how to speak in a way that connects, influences, and inspires fascination naturally. It is about embodying qualities that draw attention without force, create longing without neediness, and establish a presence that lingers in the mind of those who encounter it. Avoidance may resist initially, but when the message is delivered with authenticity, clarity, and depth, their fascination is inevitable. Now that you understand why avoidants are drawn to subtle, meaningful communication, it's time to look at how their minds actually respond when they encounter it. Avoidants have a unique way of processing interactions. On the surface, they may seem indifferent, calm, or even detached, but inside their brain is actively analyzing, replaying, and reacting to every detail. Every pause, every choice of word, every tone carries weight. When someone communicates in this intentional, balanced way, it triggers a deep sense of intrigue. Their mind becomes engaged in a loop, constantly revisiting the interaction, trying to understand it, and slowly building a fascination that can feel irresistible. This reaction is rooted in human psychology. Avoidants are wired to seek safety first, which explains why they approach closeness with caution. They are highly attuned to signals of authenticity, honesty, and stability. When they detect these qualities in a person's communication, it bypasses their usual defenses. Instead of retreating, they pause, observe, and consider. Their attention sharpens. Every interaction becomes significant, and their mind begins to assign value to each subtle message. This is why consistent, deliberate communication creates such a strong pull. It engages their rational mind and their emotional core simultaneously. Curiosity is another driving force. Avoidants are naturally drawn to things they cannot fully understand at first glance. When someone communicates in a style that combines clarity with subtle depth, it sparks a desire to know more. Their mind fills in the gaps, imagining meanings, intentions, and possibilities. This mental engagement releases a quiet, steady sense of anticipation. They begin to think about the person, not because of obligation or pressure, but because their brain has recognized a pattern that promises something rare, meaningful connection that respects their independence. One of the most fascinating aspects of this process is how avoidants interpret pauses and timing. Unlike impulsive reactions, their minds are sensitive to rhythm and pacing. When communication is deliberate, spaced, and thoughtful, it creates a space for reflection. Avoidants use the space to process, analyze, and mentally replay interactions. Over time, this repeated engagement reinforces attention and fascination. They start noticing details they might otherwise overlook: the choice of words, the subtle confidence, the depth behind statements. Every interaction becomes a puzzle piece, building a larger picture of intrigue and connection. Emotional resonance plays a critical role as well. Avoidants often hide vulnerability, yet they still crave it on some level. When communication carries an emotional undertone that is genuine but not overwhelming, it awakens an internal response. They feel seen without being pressured. They sense depth without feeling trapped. This combination triggers fascination because it activates a part of their mind that desires closeness while simultaneously respecting their natural need for distance. The result is a mental loop in which they repeatedly revisit thoughts and feelings connected to that interaction. Interestingly, the way avoidants process these signals can create a form of obsession, but it is not obsessive in a harmful sense. It is a heightened focus, a mental engagement that keeps returning to someone who communicates in a way that resonates. Their mind latches onto patterns of meaning, depth, and subtle confidence. They replay conversations, analyze nuances, and anticipate what might come next. Over time, this repeated cognitive attention solidifies a fascination that feels natural to them, even if they are reluctant to admit it outwardly. Consistency enhances this response dramatically. Avoidants notice patterns more than random gestures. A person who communicates with steady purpose and measured thought becomes increasingly magnetic over time. Each interaction reinforces the brain's recognition of value, safety, and depth. Unlike sudden intensity, which can trigger resistance, this consistency works with their natural psychology, engaging them gradually and deeply. Their attention, once earned, is retained because it aligns with their need for predictability and meaningful connection. Another key factor is how avoidants respond to balance. Overcommunication can trigger withdrawal. Undercommunication can cause disinterest. But when communication is balanced, expressing presence without demanding response, demonstrating value without forcing engagement, it aligns perfectly with their psychological wiring. It allows them to feel drawn in without feeling pressured. Their mind begins to loop over interactions in a constructive way, strengthening fascination, curiosity, and attention naturally. The mental engagement of avoidance also thrives on perceived authenticity. They are instinctively sensitive to insincerity. When someone communicates with genuine intent, grounded confidence, and a subtle emotional undertone, it signals something rare and valuable. Their mind recognizes that this is not superficial charm. It is depth that warrants attention. This recognition creates a magnetic pull, an internal reward system that reinforces repeated thinking and reflection. Over time, it builds a strong subconscious connection, often described as obsession, but rooted entirely in psychological response rather than conscious effort. Finally, it is important to understand that this is not manipulation. It is awareness of how human minds respond. By communicating in a deliberate, thoughtful, emotionally resonant way, it is possible to engage avoidance meaningfully and authentically. Their fascination is a natural consequence of their cognitive and emotional wiring. They notice, they reflect, they anticipate, and they return mentally to the interaction repeatedly. What seems like fascination is actually their mind recognizing patterns that fulfill both curiosity and subtle desire for connection. When this understanding is applied consciously, it transforms interactions. Communication becomes a tool to inspire attention, fascination, and engagement without pressure or demand. Avoidants, who normally maintain distance, become captivated because the style of communication respects their boundaries while stimulating their mind. They respond not out of obligation, but because the interaction resonates on a level that is rare and meaningful. By paying attention to these subtle triggers, the balance of space and presence, the deliberate rhythm of conversation, the emotional resonance, and the consistent demonstration of value, it becomes possible to communicate in a way that engages even the most guarded minds. Avoidants may resist initially, but their fascination grows naturally as the brain continues to process, reflect, and return to meaningful interactions. Understanding this response is the key to building influence, connection, and admiration in a way that is authentic, motivating, and deeply effective. Up to this point, it has been clear how avoidants respond, why their fascination develops, and what triggers that quiet yet powerful attention. Now, it is time to uncover the communication format that naturally draws them in. This is not about tricks, games, or manipulation. It is about a method of expression that combines clarity, depth, and intention in a way that speaks directly to their subconscious. This style of communication activates interest, curiosity, and mental engagement without overwhelming them. It is subtle, precise, and deeply effective. The first principle of this format is brevity with meaning. Avoidants are naturally sensitive to excessive detail or unnecessary chatter. They are drawn to words that carry weight, not volume. Every sentence should have purpose. Every phrase should convey significance. This does not mean being blunt or shallow. On the contrary, it is about distilling complex thoughts into simple, meaningful statements. When someone communicates this way, it signals efficiency, clarity, and intelligence. Avoidants notice this immediately. Their mind locks onto the value of what is said, and it lingers long after the words are spoken. The second principle is emotional subtlety. Avoidants are wary of overt displays of emotion because they can feel threatening or overwhelming. Yet, they are not immune to feeling. They crave connection on their own terms. The key is to convey emotion through subtle cues rather than dramatic expressions. A thoughtful word, a deliberate pause, a calm tone can communicate empathy, interest, or curiosity without demanding response. This creates space for their mind to process, reflect, and return to the interaction repeatedly. Emotional subtlety allows them to feel connection safely, which increases attention and fascination. The third element is consistency and reliability. Avoidants are drawn to patterns because they provide a sense of predictability without intrusion. When communication is steady, measured, and intentional, it signals stability and trustworthiness. They may not openly acknowledge it, but their brain notes this pattern and begins to anticipate future interactions. The more consistent and reliable the interaction, the stronger the magnetic effect. Over time, the avoidance subconscious begins to associate these patterns with safety, value, and curiosity, reinforcing their focus and mental engagement. Timing and pacing are another critical part of this communication format. Avoidants are particularly sensitive to rhythm. They respond to communication that allows space for reflection rather than instant reactions. Rapid, impulsive messages can trigger withdrawal, while thoughtful pacing invites attention. Pauses, silence, and strategic spacing in conversation create room for the mind to replay and analyze interactions. Each pause becomes an opportunity for anticipation, for curiosity to grow, and for fascination to deepen. The brain of an avoidant loves this rhythm. It naturally keeps returning to what it cannot fully predict. The fourth principle is intentional curiosity. Avoidants are captivated by interactions that hint at depth without revealing everything at once. Communication that offers glimpses of insight, knowledge, or perspective encourages mental engagement. They are drawn to the subtle invitation to explore further. This does not mean withholding information manipulatively. It means speaking with purpose, offering thoughts that encourage reflection, and creating small moments that leave a lasting impression. Their mind begins to connect dots and return to the interaction repeatedly, naturally building fascination. Another crucial aspect is respecting boundaries while demonstrating presence. Avoidants need space to feel comfortable. Overstepping their limits can cause withdrawal, while respecting their personal pace encourages openness. Communication that demonstrates awareness of boundaries while maintaining steady presence signals emotional intelligence and trustworthiness. It quietly tells them that they can engage without pressure, which makes the interaction irresistible. Their attention is drawn, not forced. Their mind continues to focus, analyze, and reflect, reinforcing subtle obsession. The fifth principle is clarity in intention. Avoidants respond positively when they perceive honesty and purpose behind words. They can detect ambiguity or hidden agendas, which triggers caution. Communication that is clear, direct, yet non demanding creates confidence and curiosity. It reassures them that the interaction is genuine and worthwhile. This clarity does not remove intrigue. It enhances it by showing that every word has meaning and every statement carries intention. Their subconscious begins to appreciate this rare combination, which strengthens fascination over time. Finally, integration of all these elements brevity, emotional subtlety, consistency, timing, curiosity, boundary respect, and clarity forms a communication pattern that is magnetic to avoidance. It is a format that speaks directly to their natural psychological wiring. It engages both mind and heart, creating a balance of safety, intrigue, and depth. Avoidants cannot resist it because it addresses their need for independence while satisfying their curiosity for meaningful connection. This is the method that transforms ordinary interaction into something unforgettable. Understanding this format is not about manipulation. It is about awareness and mastery of how human minds respond to communication. By practicing this style, it becomes possible to capture attention, inspire fascination, and maintain mental engagement naturally. Avoidants respond because it aligns with their subconscious desires, respect, intrigue, stability, and emotional resonance without triggering fear or withdrawal. This is why people who communicate in this way become impossible to ignore. Once this style is internalized, it changes not only how others perceive interaction, but also how one perceives themselves. Speaking with intention, subtlety, and purpose builds confidence and presence. It strengthens influence and creates authentic connections that leave lasting impressions. Avoidants, who often challenge others' ability to maintain attention, find themselves captivated because the method naturally resonates with their psychology. Their minds remain engaged, returning to each interaction, reflecting on every meaningful word, and forming a quiet, persistent fascination.